Welcome to Inspire West Michigan, the podcast that celebrates the visionaries, change makers, and business leaders shaping our region. Whether you're a fellow entrepreneur, emerging leader, or curious community member, Inspire West Michigan delivers content that informs, uplifts, and empowers. In each episode, we'll go behind the scenes with local CEOs, presidents, and entrepreneurs to uncover the stories, strategies, and values that drive their success and inspire our communities. From Grand Haven to Grand Rapids and beyond, this is Inspire West Michigan. Let's dig in. Leadership isn't built when everything is easy. It's forged through service, difficult decisions, and a willingness to put others first. Today's guest, retired Coast Guard Commander Tracy Riley, has spent a lifetime doing just that. Now, she brings those leadership lessons here to Grand Haven's most honored tradition, the Grand Haven Coast Guard Festival. Thanks for joining me today, Tracy.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. So certainly we could start with your role at the Grand Haven Coast Guard Festival, but I'd like to start back to where your Coast Guard career began. Okay. And I know we could talk for hours about that, and we already have. Mm-hmm. But we're going to try to pull out some of the highlights because you have had a really interesting journey, and you've learned so much along the way, and I'm excited for others to hear about that.
Great.
So early 80s, yeah?
82.
82. Mm-hmm. You went off to college.
I went off to college for a year.
Yeah.
And I had a great time. I thought I did well. My grades were great. I came home, worked that summer, and probably about 3 weeks before I was to go back, my dad sat me down and went, we can't do this. You can't go back. We can't swing it. And so that was a little shocking. And he then
tough for him to say.
Tough
probably.
For him to say. Awful.
Yeah.
But he then kind of slid a recruiting thing across the table about the Coast Guard, Didn't tell my mom. Ooh. So off we went. My head was spinning. Off we went to the recruiter, and I just thought, well, I need to go do something. And he was very excited about it, and I trusted, what he was saying. So I signed up, and I was in boot camp that was August. I was in boot camp by October.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. Okay, so do you have military folks in your family? Was this like out of left field or not so crazy?
No, all my uncles on both sides of my family had either just the timing of the generations had either served in Vietnam or Korea.
Okay.
And to include my dad, he was in Korea in the Navy.
No one in the Coast Guard?
No one in the Coast Guard.
Okay.
Yeah, we had Army, Air Force, Navy, but no Coast Guard. So,
okay.
Yeah.
And where were you living at the time? Was water around you?
No,
Was the Coast Guard?
I grew up in inland northwest New Jersey.
Okay.
Nowhere close to the beach, and we didn't get to the beach, so I didn't know anything about the Coast Guard.
Oh my goodness.
I didn't know if I got seasick. I didn't know. Ooh. I was really a good choice that was very fortunate that I didn't, have those issues. But
so you're in the recruiter's office. Mm-hmm. You start by taking probably some assessment tests and things like that. What did you learn about yourself, or what the Coast Guard might look like for you at that point?
I had, they give you a book and you're reading all the different jobs you can have and things, and I kind of wanted to be a marine science technician. When I was going to college, I wanted to be a marine biologist. That was my dream at the time. So I thought, well, marine science technician's kind of close to that, and that looks like a cool job and in the Coast Guard. And so that was kind of what I pinned my hopes on, and I took my oath, and he asked about what school I wanted to go to, and I said, I want to go to marine science technician school. He goes, oh, that school's closed. It's going to be closed for another couple of years. And I was like, now I'm going to boot camp, and I'm not sure what I'm going to do. So, but once I got there and learned about the other different ratings or jobs you can have in the Coast Guard, I said, oh, this driving small boats thing looks like a lot of fun too. So I decided at that point to be a bosun's mate.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, women had only even been allowed in the Coast Guard for
about
10
six years.
6 years, not even 10. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the first academy class started in 76, and they started taking enlisted women in 76.
Wow.
For the most part, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So you head off to boot camp in October. Mm-hmm. Where's that?
Cape May, New Jersey.
Okay.
So a couple hours down south of where I grew up.
Okay.
So.
And had you ever been there?
No.
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 What was boot camp like on that first day?
Oh, yeah. They
Rude
drive
awakening?
you. Yeah, they put us all on a charter bus and drove us in, and they have their footprints painted on the sidewalk, and they open the bus doors, and the company commanders come in and start screaming at you, and get off and line up on the footprints, and it's just it's chaos. It's meant to get your heart bumping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you feel like your childhood prepared you for a moment like that?
I grew up in a house that was pretty regimented. My mom was a rules person, and so it was not unusual for me to be told what to do and to be expected to do it. So I did not really have a problem with that. Yeah.
And you have siblings?
I have one brother.
Okay.
Younger brother.
Younger brother. Okay. So you're the oldest.
Yes.
So there's a certain level of sort of leadership and control that you're expected to have.
Yes.
Anyway.
Yeah.
But on top of that, your mom kind of built you for
did.
that moment.
She most certainly did. Yeah.
Yeah. That's good. Good, because you probably needed it. Yeah. It's like pull up your pants here, your bootstraps.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so you're in boot camp, and how many others are like in that class? So
we
to say?
started with about 127 or 8, I think, and we graduated with 62, 82, something like that. About 80s. It was 82 or 84.
Okay.
By the time we graduated. Yeah, there's always some
drop off.
Drops.
They expect that, right?
I'm
mean, they're
sure that
they're
they
sort
do.
of trying to sort it out.
I'm sure that they do.
Yeah. Any other women that you recall?
There were when we graduated, there were 6 of us.
Okay.
Yeah, graduated with 6. Started with more. I don't remember the exact number, but graduated with 6 of us.
Yeah. So after boot camp, you get your first assignment, and where was that?
New Orleans.
Okay.
Louisiana. Yeah, I went to. I was assigned to the base down there, and then from there they would assign you out to a unit. One of the difficulties was at that time there were ships and Coast Guard stations and things, but they didn't have any women assigned to most of those things. They didn't have berthing for them, and they didn't have a place to go. So I was kind of hanging at the base for a while, and some of the men would come from boot camp, and they would be sent right off to a ship or a station. And I was like, when am I going to get my chance?
Right.
And
finally,
what
you're saying is that at those stations they didn't have
they didn't
accommodations.
Have the berthing, right.
Yeah, you say berthing, but that's
accommodations.
Yes, accommodations.
And that could be showers,
the whole
rooms
thing
to sleep in, or oftentimes the men.
Well, at least they recognize that it needs to be separate, which is good. But that meant you had to wait.
I had to wait a little bit. Yeah, and an opening came up at Station New Canal, which is a little lighthouse on Lake Pontchartrain.
Okay.
Went out there after about 4 months, I think.
And what was your role at that station?
I was a brand new crewman, so
Okay.
my assignment the first thing is a radio watchstander, learn how to handle calls and talk to people on the radio, then a boat crewman, and then eventually a boat coxswain, which is driving the small boat. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's entirely likely that you were among the first women to be at that station.
Oh, yeah, I think so.
And how were
there
you
might have been
treated
one
upon
before
your
me.
arrival?
It depended on which gentleman I was working with.
Sure, okay.
Some of them were fine. Other ones were a little standoffish. I did take over a bunk room that needed to be just for me, that they were used to. The senior watchstander, petty officer of the day, was used to staying in. So I bumped him, so he had to go upstairs and sleep in the big open room with everybody else. So some people were a little, put out for a bit, I think, but overall they were good.
Can you recall things that you did or said or experienced that help you to kind of cement your position and be respected by the others?
I think they just realized that I was there to work and do my job, and I wanted to learn. I mean, I really
and that they weren't going to scare you off.
No, I really wanted to learn, and I wanted to advance because seaman apprentice, seaman, you're the one you're a janitor. You're cleaning up and you're doing the jobs that the petty officers don't have to do anymore. So I'm like, I think I want to get promoted.
Yeah, of course.
I want to have to learn this stuff so I can move up and get promoted. Yeah.
And you were willing to just put your head down and do the work, regardless of how you were being.
And it was fun. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I mean, it really was fun to get underway on the boats and go do what the Coast Guard's supposed to do,
Right.
search and rescue calls and all
So
that.
were you getting out on the boats at that point?
Right
or
away.
Were you, okay.
Right away, they take you out and show you, this is your job as a crewman. This is how you handle the lines. This is how we do this and do that, and run you through drills. What if somebody goes overboard? What if we have a fire on our boat? Or how do we get alongside another boat? How do you get somebody out of the water? Just all that you have to learn, all those skills.
Yeah. So did you get seasick?
No.
Thank goodness.
Never, actually.
Never.
Not in my whole career, no. Which is amazing, actually, because...
Well, it is amazing.
Yeah.
And, you wonder if adrenaline plays a role in that to some degree, until your body gets used to it.
Yeah, I don't know. It just was interesting. I never had a problem.
Well,
very fortunate. Very having
fortunate.
A lot of friends that did have a problem with it, I felt very fortunate that I was not dealing with that. Yeah. Yeah, it's miserable.
Oh, for sure. And you can't, it's hard to get away from it. And
right. Yeah.
I am one that gets seasick.
There we go.
And
yeah,
it is no fun. No. I love to be on the water. There is no better way to spend a day, in my opinion. And I do get seasick.
Oh, that's
so. Yeah, I drug myself pretty good.
Well, that's good. Yeah, we do have that at least.
Yes, they do. But I have anxiety over it, and I can only imagine if that was your career to be out there. That's your, what you're signed up to do, and then to just be feeling rotten.
Rotten every day.
Yeah. So, what of the functions that you were responsible for? What things did you find yourself really drawn to?
I loved being out on the boats.
Yeah.
Actually, and it was a search and rescue station, so we would get calls to go out and help people and do things. So I love that part of it. I didn't, and maintenance on the boats, so there's a lot of painting and doing all that, and I didn't have a problem with any of that either. Radio watch standing, New Orleans, it's funny, different parts of the country, different dialects and things. I could not understand, when I first started. I'm like, what did he just say?
Yeah.
The folks in, the fishermen in Louisiana from back in the bayous, I would just sit there with the radio
a different
and
language.
go, what did he just say?
Yeah.
And the person sitting next to me is like, oh, this is, so you just had to get used to hearing the voices and what they were, how they spoke. But it took a little bit,
Yeah.
So, because I was from the Northeast,
Right.
I talked Jersey, so it was just a whole different thing. Yeah.
Were there people above you at that point that really, even to this day, stand out to you?
I have a dear friend named Joe, and he was a second-class bosun's mate when I showed up at the station, and I was in his duty section, and he took me on as a project and taught me everything. I mean, he was great. Plus, we were really good. We had a basketball hoop at the station, and the two of us were really great at 2-on-2, and we beat everybody. So we did that too. But he just taught me everything, and we kept in touch throughout our careers. And he's actually going to be here for festival this year. And I don't think it's been probably 35 years since I've seen him. So
Are you
we're
kidding?
super excited to see each other. And he retired as a senior chief, bosun's mate, and. But yeah, he's just a great guy.
And do you think he saw things in you that you hadn't yet seen in yourself?
He was funny. He told me, and I didn't remember him saying this. He goes, Riley, I told you, way back that we were going to be saluting you someday. I said, I do not remember that, but thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was
Those
fun.
are the moments
funny.
you take along with you. Even if you didn't remember it later when he reminded you, it certainly gave you confidence.
There's that handful of people that walk into your life at the right time, and it's just a blessing, really. But that will say the one thing that you need to hear, or will show you something that you need to know right there, and can carry you through when, maybe you run into other things that aren't quite as great.
Right. And did you feel like there were commanding officers that were kind of teaching you how to be a good leader in those early years, that you tapped back into that?
Yeah, it's funny. I think, and we've talked a little bit, I think you learn a whole lot from great commanding officers or officers in charge. You also learn a bunch from the ones that weren't so great. So at that station, the senior chief in charge of the station was not an easy man to anybody. It wasn't just a me thing, and he was hard. And I thought, I don't really think okay, I'm learning my first lesson, which is I don't want to be like that.
Yeah. Could you define what that meant, like how to not do that? Because we also
scream and yell.
Yeah,
You know,
okay.
the screaming and yelling is never, you know, the humiliation. There was humiliation. There was you know, when you make a mistake in the military or you screw something up, there's always the availability to get written up for doing
Sure.
something wrong or stepping out of line or whatever. But he would write people up for things that were accidents. You know, we had an engineer trip coming out of the boat with a battery, and he tripped on the dock and dropped the battery broke, and he wrote him up for that. I'm like, you tripped,
Right.
on the, you know.
Yeah,
So
accidents
I
happen.
just kind of those types of things. He was just hard to get, and he didn't really act like he liked us. You know, the crew. We were just, you know, he didn't.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So that style wasn't going to work.
No, it wasn't going to work
forward.
for me. No,
Yeah.
it did not work
Yeah.
for me. But
So how does it work? You're in each post for a couple of years, then you get
2
reassigned.
to 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so you left there, and
I left there pretty quick.
Yeah,
About a year
good.
and a half, because I took the test to get promoted, and I was on my way to school actually, and then found out I was getting promoted. So I got out of there after about a year, only about a year and a half.
Okay.
I was there.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So where did you go from there?
I went to the Coast Guard's National Strike Force, which
Okay.
I had never heard of before.
No.
And they had 3 teams, Atlantic, Pacific, and Gulf. At the time, the Atlantic team, which is when I was assigned to, was in Elizabeth City, North Carolina.
Okay.
So big air station there. And I went there as what's called a response petty officer. And they respond to hazardous oil spills, chemical spills all over the country, anything that can get into a navigable waterway. So we would fly to Pennsylvania, we'd go to New York, we were all over the country, Jersey. We had some hazardous sites in New Jersey. So we spent a lot of time in the Northeast, and but you'd just pick up and go. If something happened overnight, you know, they'd be there. So
Yeah.
when you think about like the big ships that have run aground and spilled oil and
Yes.
those types of things, the strike team's there.
That's what you're working
that's
on.
what they do. Mhm.
Okay. Okay. And you at that point you had been promoted.
Right. I was only a 3rd class petty officer though, so still kind of low
Okay.
on the
Your role was starting
list.
to change though, and there were people
I knew what my
who
job
were,
was.
Yeah.
Of course, the strike team job was a kind of out of what we all called out of rating. I mean, you used some of your skills, but it was a whole bunch of new skills that you had to learn that you may or may not use again. You know, in
Yeah.
your career, it was kind of an out of rate job. So I had to go to school to learn about how to clean up, you know, the booms and the cleanup of the spills and things like that, and
Yeah.
hazardous materials and all that kind of stuff. So stuff that I probably wouldn't have normally had if I'd gone to another station or
Sure.
a ship or something. Yeah.
Sure. But I'm
So
sure
it was
that-
neat to learn it. I mean, it was neat.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So you had people who were younger than you now
Yes.
in the
Not-
same
it's
station.
Not there.
Not there?
The strike team was, it's kind of funny, I was the most junior person.
Oh, really? Okay.
They did not have seaman or seaman apprentices. You had to be a rated petty officer. And their rule, until I showed up, was a 2nd class or above.
Okay.
And I was a 3rd. So when I showed up, I was the most junior person. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
So so you were there for
3 years.
3 years.
Mhm.
Okay. And at that point, were you going to school also?
No, from there, no.
Okay.
No.
Okay. So when you left that station, were you again promoted
I had promoted while I was there to
Okay.
2nd class.
to 2nd class?
And bosun's mate. And from there, I needed to get some sea time. So bosun's mates, there's some requirements for some of the ratings that you have to have some sea time.
Yeah.
So of course I wanted a ship, and they weren't necessarily easy to come by, but the Coast Guard was starting to build cutters that had berthing opportunities for women. So I went to a brand new 270-foot cutter out of New Bedford, Massachusetts, and I was on the commissioning crew of the Coast Guard cutter Tahoma.
Okay.
So.
So first time that ship was.
Yes, we put it all together, launched it, commissioned it, the whole thing, the ceremony, and
Neat.
That's a lot of work. Yeah,
I can
it's
imagine.
a lot of work.
Yeah. So so were you were you driving that ship? Were you?
No,
What were you?
that's a 270-foot cutter.
Okay.
So when you start to get to that size, there's junior officers that are driving that ship.
Okay.
And, it's a whole. There's what's called a wardroom. There's a group of officers on board, and then there's the enlisted crew as well.
So what did every day look like for you, and what do you feel like really stood out
So
to
this
you?
cutter really focused on law enforcement. And so we spent a lot of time down in the Caribbean.
Oh, goodness.
So, and a lot of that time we had a helicopter attached to because we had a flight deck. So it were usually flight ops every day. And then if we needed to go identify something, we did have small boats on board that we would lower over the side, and it was my job to drive those.
Okay.
So we would put a boarding crew in the boat and lower it down over the side, and we'd go over and
So I mean,
do a
were
boarding.
were you finding yourself on boats where people were smuggling drugs
Oh,
and
absolutely.
things like that?
Uh-huh.
So did you were you armed?
Yes, we were
was
all
your crew
armed.
armed? And did you find yourself in any dicey moments that?
Yeah, a couple. I think it was nerve-wracking to me. Most of the time I was driving the boat. As we got other people qualified to drive the small boat, I went on to the boarding teams. I think it's nerve-wracking to think about, having weapons on you and being on a little vessel and, asking for the whole crew to come up and go, okay, is the whole crew really up here?
Yes.
Do we know for sure, because you're going through spaces and it's tight quarters. And so that's always, I think, in the back of your mind. I mean, you're trained on what to do with that, but yeah, I think you're pretty alert when you're doing those things. Plus the boat's rocking and sometimes it's rocking a lot.
Yeah.
And,
But I mean, if you're driving that boat, people are having to listen to you.
Oh, the small boat, yeah.
Yeah, the small boat. And I mean, what was it like to find yourself?
We had some growing pains with doing boat operations. It was a brand new cutter again,
Yes.
and so we did have some growing pains with the boat ops, but we got it together because you can get hurt.
Yeah, for
lowering
sure.
a boat over the side, and if the ship's not driving in the right direction and that kind of thing. So, but we got it down. But yes, they're once and it's Coast Guard regulations. Once that boat starts moving down the side, the coxswain, the person driving, is the one in charge of it. The ship is kind of off to the side, and you listen to who's driving.
Yes,
because
they're trying to keep you
well,
safe.
you can. I mean, you can if you do things wrong, you can flip it.
Yeah.
You can get hurt. So.
Well, I can think of so many times in my life where you get yourself, in a pickle or. First time doing something and something scary happens, and none of my experiences compare to what you're experiencing. But I think it's human nature to let that fear kind of amp up everything that you're doing. Right. How do you feel like you were able to keep yourself calm in those moments? I don't really
know. I can't tell you. I think it's just kind of somewhat my nature.
Yeah.
I think. Me panicking and the crew picking up on that was not going to do anybody any good.
No.
So you have to keep it together, or somebody's going to get hurt.
Yeah.
So I'd amp up later. I'd get up and go, oh my goodness,
Yeah.
That was kind of scary. But at the time, I was able to just do what I had to do to get them to do things. And sometimes their eyeballs would be as big as saucers. It was rough sometimes. So, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So you were all over in the Caribbean. I mean, you really got...
Yeah, I got to see just about every island down there, actually. Not on a cruise.
I was going to say, not for the fun stuff.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's the lessons are aplenty, right?
Right.
Like you're just drinking from a fire hose at that point.
And you throw on a new ship like that, they throw a crew together. We all get there at the same time, pretty much. So you have to learn these personalities, people from all over the country.
Yeah.
And you're a crew and you're a team, and there's just always some learning that goes along and some
So do you have
personalities?
For sure.
All different personalities.
And are there some folks that were there in that station with you? I mean, that's a pretty big crew. Are there folks from that station that then you were with later in your career?
No, I don't think I carried on with anybody after that. No, I mean, I keep in touch with lots of them or some of them, but no, I did not get stationed with any of them again. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Kind of funny.
Me.
Well, the Coast Guard's small, but we had about 90 people in the crew.
Yeah.
So, yeah. It's funny. Yeah.
It is. It is. So, was it from there that you went back to officer?
From there, I was trying to get back to a boat station.
Mm-hmm.
So my dream had always been, and I had been advanced to first class bosun's mate while on that cutter. And so I knew the next step was to make chief. Well, if I wanted to make chief, my dream was always I want to make chief and I want to be in charge of my own Coast Guard station or cutter or ship, because we have some senior enlisted folks that are also officers in charge of cutters, some of the smaller cutters. So I knew I wanted to do that. And so I had just gotten married, and he was stationed in Governor's Island.
Okay.
And the detailer called me and said, well, I know you want to go to Governor's Island, be with your husband. So I'm sending you to this reserve station keeper job is what it was called. And I said, no, I know there's a couple billets open at Station New York. I really would like to get back to a boat station. And, this billet's been open for months and I can't find anybody to fill it. And since you want to be here, there's where you're going.
Oh, he had you over a barrel.
It was terrible. And so within a few months I went, okay, I need to change my my plan here. If I want command, I need to consider a different path. So I applied to officer candidate school at that point. Yeah. I was disappointed because chief was really always I just really wanted to be one.
Right.
They were the coolest, and that's what you aspire to as an enlisted person. But yeah, so
you went to officer candidate school, and what did that mean for you?
17 weeks of training in Yorktown, Virginia at the time. And having, there's always a handful of prior service people in the class, and we're fortunate because, we're in there with people right out of college.
Yeah.
Who have to learn what the Coast Guard is, how to wear the uniform, and those types of things. So I kind of felt like, it was kind of easier for us to do that. I thought it was great. I enjoyed it.
You had that the history of having that under your belt,
right?
Going into officer training, yeah. And so the others, it was all fresh.
They
were
new.
Fresh young baby, just like you were.
Navigation and all those types of things that they had to learn that I did every day in my job.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I was fortunate that way.
Yeah. So, were you? Officer candidate school? Your intention was to get through that. Did you have an idea of what you wanted to do on the other side of that?
I wanted to go back afloat. I knew I wanted another ship coming out of there. Yeah.
And did that happen?
It did.
Good.
It did. We had 7 ships for our class. We had a class of about 65, but we had 7 cutters. At the time, everybody from the academy had to go to a cutter, and so we graduated in February. Academy always graduates in May, so they have to really watch their numbers. So OCS gets, whatever's not going to get used by the academy class. So we had 7, which isn't many, but I was lucky enough to get one of them. Yeah. So I went out to the West Coast to the Coast Guard cutter Black Haw, which was a 180-foot seagoing buoy tender. Okay. Tied right up in San Francisco, right under the Bay Bridge is Coast Guard base, and that's where we tied up. So
what year was this?
91.
Okay. And at this point, how had the Coast Guard changed from when you went in,
I think
10 years earlier?
A lot more women, more women, and more women in non-traditional jobs if they wanted to be. I think the officer corps was a little, at least for me, I noticed that was a little easier. I think you didn't get as much. At that point, we'd been in long enough and on cutters and things that it was not an unusual thing. When I walked on there, there wasn't any issue.
Yeah.
And for a short while, I was the only female on the ship. Now, that particular cutter is really old, so they made one of the staterooms for female officers. There was not the ability to have female enlisted people on that, on the 180, but there was for officers. And so then there ended up being 2 of us, and we shared one of the rooms. So just 2 of us.
So 1991, you said. So what was happening in the world in 1991? Was that the beginning of Desert Storm? What was?
Yeah, that started when we were in OCS, actually. Yeah.
So how did that impact the Coast Guard? Did it at all?
Oh, it did. Sure.
Yeah.
We had
and
people
how
deployed.
About for you?
We had people deployed over there. I was on buoy tender. So our job was to maintain the aids to navigation and the buoys in the San Francisco Bay Area and up and down the coast. So not so much us.
Okay.
We were a working boat. That's what we did every day, was go out and
Search and
make sure-
rescue.
No,
and
repair
no?
that. Well, if we came across something or we were close to something, we could get assigned to do that. But these ships moved at about a max speed of 9 knots.
Okay.
They're big, huge,
Yes.
heavy. It was over 50 years old when I got on board.
Wow.
So you're talking older cutters, really great workhorse boats. I mean, they were excellent, but we weren't speedily going anywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So, did you? I mean, you were an officer at that point. What did your sort of role and rank look like compared to others on the ship at that point?
So then it becomes, as an ensign, you're starting again from the bottom on the officer side.
Yes.
So it's, okay, you need to learn to drive the ship. You need to learn, here's your people that are assigned to you. I was in charge of the cooks. That was my first assignment, was to be the cook's supervisor, which was fun because I got to taste everything first. And they'd bring stuff up to the bridge for me to eat. But you learn to navigate. I became the operations officer, so then I was in charge of, this is what we're doing this week. We're getting underway and doing, and that boat went in and out a lot. We'd go out for the day, or we'd go out for a couple days, maybe a week. And this is the route we're going, because we have to work these buoys and get everybody qualified to set buoys. And this was, it was all manual. So we were, now they can plug in where the buoy is supposed to be in GPS, and the ship can kind of hold you there, hold station there while they're working the buoy. We had to have somebody on the helm trying to hold station, and we used sextant angles to set the buoys. So there'd be 3 of us up on the flying bridge with a sextant, shooting angles, and when we're all worked together right with somebody's doing the, on paper, doing the calculations. Okay, drop it, So it was
Very
just a
different.
whole different, it's just a whole different life. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fun though.
Yeah.
Fun. It was great. It was fun.
That was
And
a great.
it's beautiful. I mean, it was a beautiful place to be assigned to a cutter and just to be offshore and of the Northwest, Pacific Northwest, and the wildlife you could see when we were underway. And it was just, it was
really
cool.
cool.
It was cool. Yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah. So you were there for how long?
I was on the ship for 2 years, and then got, which is kind of typical, and then walked down the pier and got assigned to Group San Francisco. So back into the search and rescue, law enforcement side of things. I was a lieutenant junior grade at that point, and I became the assistant ops officer there at the group. So
And did you like that? Did you like the search and rescue side of things?
I love that. Well, and that's kind of where I had always wanted to go with the station idea.
Yes.
So I saw that as my, I wanted that job because I saw that as my chance to get back working with stations.
Yeah.
And in the hopes that I would eventually still have a station command. So we had probably 8 stations up and down the coast, to include the one under the Golden Gate Bridge. We had one in San Francisco. We had one in Morro Bay and up and down the coast of California. It was neat to go out and visit them. We had one at Lake Tahoe. There's a Coast Guard station at Lake Tahoe.
Did not know that.
Yes.
It's a big lake. I was there last Labor Day,
neat.
and it's a really neat lake.
So I would get to go visit. I was kind of the first person to call for the officers in charge if they needed something operational. That was my job. And I had a great boss. My ops boss, the next person, my immediate supervisor, was just a fabulous guy that just took me under his wing, but let me just do, whatever. I was put in charge of the operations center, so all the watchstanders and all the calls that came in, that was my job too. So
were the crews pretty young at that point? Those that are working under you?
The station crews are always young.
Station crews are always young?
They're always typically young. The boat crew people and stuff. I mean, the people in charge are a little older, but the boat crew, the boat station.
And what were you
typically a young group of people?
Yeah. What were you learning about, being a leader over these young?
Well, I think for me, I was always talking to them about life in general, but also, where stuff would come down from the group about now at the stations, you're all going to do this or whatever, and it's that explanation of why we're doing something, what the captain's vision is for why we're doing this, and the importance of it, and your role in that, and to be willing to listen to, what if we tried this way, or we were thinking about this, what if we do this a little different? And there's some things that, regulation-wise, no, this is really kind of in writing how you have to do it. But when you can give that flexibility to have them think and go, this is okay, but maybe we could do this better,
right?
Or maybe there's another way we can do this given the people we have and the training we have and the boats we're working on or whatever.
But I mean, I think that's an incredible kind of learning lesson that you had along the way, and probably some leaders above you that gave you the ability to question and things that made you think, okay, that's the way.
Right.
That's the way I want to.
That's the way you want to treat people.
Yeah.
And to treat them, to ask their opinion, and to get their input. You're not giving up any of your power or leadership or whatever by asking a junior person what they think or their opinion on something. I never felt like that was. I wanted to hear it. If I'm sitting in an office going, hey, we need you to do this and this. They're out there actually doing it.
Yeah.
So there's a different, if I didn't go out there and look, and I tried to make a point to go out and go and see what I was asking them to do.
Yeah.
Because
in some cases they could have tried and it may not have worked last time.
And I
so,
don't like sitting in the office anyway. So for me to go, I think I need to go out to station such and such and take a boat ride.
Yeah.
So I did that as much as I possibly could.
Well, and what
I wasn't driving them anymore, but I was
Absolutely.
going out there and riding on them. Yeah, it was great.
And what did it teach you about giving everyone the why? The why you're doing something. How do people react to that?
It's really buy-in. And sometimes they're still like, meh, and I'm like, well, this is the way it's got to be. But if you have that balance of, she's asking our opinion, or what do you guys think about this, then there's a balance there. And they also, I think, I always wanted to be the person that they felt comfortable calling. I didn't want to be that officer that we really don't want to tell her that because we don't know how she's going to respond.
Yeah.
And I think my line was, bad news doesn't get better with time.
So
if something's got screwed up, or
come out
whatever,
with it.
Yeah, let's hear about it now.
Yeah.
So
that's actually a really good thing just in life,
it
right?
is, yeah. Bad
just
news does
own
not
it.
Get better. Yeah, just
it
own
does
it. Just
not
own it,
age well.
And we can figure out how it, and if the news channels are hearing it before I know about it, that's not good either, So.
Yeah. So did it feel at the time like, here you'd gone through all of this growth and you're in different roles for a year and then you're in a new one. And then, and did you recognize at some point that you were teaching other people how to lead, that they were looking to you as to what to do or not do as they became leaders?
Yeah, and I think what I found about myself is I actually love to teach people.
Yeah.
And I really, and I don't think I thought about it at the time, but I loved to teach somebody how to do whether it's tie a knot or you need to think about this up on the bridge or this is why we do this or I found out that I really liked to teach. And I liked when I was taught, when it was a one-on-one, this is how we do this, and that somebody would take the time with me to make sure I understood, and because it's constant training, especially at these smaller units or on the ships. Every new person has to go through a huge amount of training, and that falls to the people that are, your supervisors, the second or first class petty officers that have to sit and take the time with everybody and train them in a repetitive. Oh, here's another one. We've got to train this one. We've got to. Now we have another boat crewman. It's constant training in the military.
And some people are good at it and some people are not.
Right. Well, yeah, like anything else, I think.
Yeah.
But I realized that I really liked it. Which actually worked out for me because the next job after I left Group San Francisco was to go back to Officer Candidate School.
As an instructor.
And a platoon officer.
Okay, so did you have children yet at this point?
I had one while I was at the group. Yes, my oldest was born in California.
Okay.
And so when I moved, she was about 2 and a half.
What was it like going through that and
it
being in the military?
Cross-country move. Oh, you mean being pregnant?
Yes.
I had fabulous commands when I had all of my kids. And and I was also ashore, which helped. I also was blessed to have just easy pregnancies. I just did. So I could work right
and
up.
easy
I
babies.
could work right up to the day.
Yeah.
And easy babies. So God knew what I could handle.
Right, exactly.
So they were great. But my bosses were, were awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so you're back at Officer Candidate School, but this time as an instructor.
Right.
How did it feel arriving, there on campus?
It's kind of funny because my heart rate kind of got pumped up the first in-doc week, where I'm in the staff position. I could feel myself getting like I was a student, and I said, "You've got to calm down."
Yeah. But you knew how they felt. I mean, maybe that's true of all of the instructors.
Yeah, well, we'd all been through, all the instructors were either academy grads or OCS grads.
Okay.
So we all had been through some sort of
But
that.
you were feeling it.
I was.
Yeah.
It was kind of funny. I got over it pretty quick, but it was kind of funny the first time.
So how many the classes last 17 weeks,
17
you said,
weeks.
right?
Mm-hmm.
How many classes?
A year?
Yes.
It depends. So we were like the spigot to turn off and on depending on how big the academy class was and the number of officers that they needed to bring in that year. So it depended on the year, but probably four OCS classes, and then in the summertime we did reserve officer candidates.
Okay.
We had reserve officers too, and those classes were always held in the summer, along with direct commission. In some cases, we bring people in that are lawyers or doctors or whatever, and so we put them through a little short class about wearing the uniform and this is how the Coast Guard works type of thing. So we were pretty busy. Summer was always crazy, and year round we had at least one class on board, pretty much year round. It was a rare occasion for us to not have anybody in the barracks.
So now you're an instructor, an officer candidate school. Did you feel like you had really kind of veered off this path of wanting to be a station chief, or did you feel like this was actually a stepping stone in the right direction?
That was a job I wanted. So
okay, good.
It's once you become an officer in the Coast Guard, you get operational jobs. So that's the group and the ships and stuff. But then you usually have to go to a non-operational billet in between those.
Okay.
It's a little rare, and I think especially now, to just go from operation to operational job. So I knew I needed to go to a staff, what we would call a staff job, and that was my dream job, was to go teach there.
Yeah.
As opposed to going to an office and headquarters or something like that. So it worked out perfect for me. It was great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And do you remember some of those young people from those days?
I ran into one in January at headquarters, and he's a captain now.
Oh.
And I walked up to him and he looked at me, and I said, "Mr. Cedarholm," and he goes, "Yeah." So it was funny. He goes, "Oh my goodness." So it was funny. But yeah, the people I put through now are, like I said, they're either captains and at least one of them's an admiral, but they're getting toward the end of. I won't know very many of them next few years.
Yeah.
That'll be the end of that.
Have you had anyone that you've run into that told you something that you taught them or that they learned from you?
I had a couple give me stories of me like yelling at. There were some yelling stories that I'm like, how come I don't remember that? Well, the first week there's a lot of voice raising and yelling, telling them they're not doing things right and stuff like that, and that's all part of it. And there were a couple that I can't even remember what I told them, but they were like, oh, I still remember you telling me that, type of thing.
Yeah.
It's funny because I don't even remember it, but.
Well, I mean, I think as we look throughout our career, and particularly in moments of leadership, you kind of don't realize that you're leading when you're leading. I mean, you're just doing your job.
Right.
But it can really impact people and their future, the things that you say and that you do.
Right. And I think, OCS, so they always remember the yell. I remember that too. I remember certain instructors saying things to me early on, but it's 17 weeks, and as they move through the program, the staff, we move from being super instructive and boot camp kind of the first couple weeks type of thing to, you guys are going to be leaders, And so we want you to work together as a team, and then we want to see your leadership skills individually. You know, so we give them opportunities to do that. And then by the last couple weeks, we really back off and go, you guys are going to get commissioned in a couple weeks. So you run the show.
Yeah.
You run the building, you run the duty sections, you run the whole thing, and we'll supervise. And we had classes and stuff too. But just to see the maturity and the growth in the 17 weeks, just it was always great.
Yeah.
And then to watch them walk across the stage and go, wow, what 17 weeks, the change from when they came in the door. Yeah. It's really neat.
Yeah. Can you think of any examples of just transformations that you did not expect?
Oh, yeah. You know, you'd have people crying and just so scared to death that you're thinking, oh, I'm not sure how this is going to work out. We had a rule about quitting. We're like, you can't come in and say you're going to quit until 5 weeks. Yeah, you can come in and say you're going to quit,
right? But we're not going to let you quit
until 5 weeks. I'm going to be out of here. Okay, well, hang in and come back and see me in 5 weeks. And I never, I had pushed through as a platoon officer. I had probably a class a year that I was platoon officer for, and I never had anybody come back in and say they wanted. By that time, they were in the rhythm.
Yeah.
And they'd met friends, and they were a team. They supported each other.
Yeah.
And, you know, they go through the good stuff together and they go through the bad stuff together. And yeah, they become quite the tight unit.
Yeah.
So.
Wow.
Yeah.
So as a teacher, were there things that you experienced that now you had a different view on it than you did when you were an officer candidate? You know, tell me an example of that where you just, it was like, oh, I was seeing it through a different lens when I was here.
Yeah, well, and I think it had changed a little bit from when I went through to when we had a different, our boss there, the school chief. One of the things that would happen when I was there was they could touch you, like they take your belt off and smudge it after you just shined your brass, you know.
Yes.
And those kind of things where I thought of that as game playing. And like I said, I had been prior service, so I was like, oh, here we go again. But, you know, they would, if you weren't wearing your uniform right, it wasn't unusual for them to kind of grab something. Room inspections would be, they would tear your locker apart and just throw your uniforms all over the place. And by the time I got on staff, the school chief was like, no, we will not be doing that. These people are adults, number one. And they were, all of them were over at least college grads. We will not be throwing their uniforms. We will not be, they paid a lot of money for them. And
that's good. That's a good change to have happened.
We will not be touching them either, and that kind of thing. You can get your point across without doing any of that stuff. So.
That's good transformation of the military.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're teaching these people to be officers and to show respect and to be respected, and then the staff's not respecting them. So that just wasn't the greatest way to go. So that had changed over the years, and I thought it was a lot better by the time I was on staff. Yeah.
Yeah. And were there quite a few young women in these officer candidate classes at this point?
I'm trying to remember. We graduated with probably 9 of us, I think, of 65 is what we ended up with at graduation. And yeah, that was pretty typical. You usually had a good maybe dozen or so in the classes. You know, the classes would be probably 60 to 80 people.
Yeah. So, all right. So from officer candidate school, you then, to your point earlier, can go back to operations.
Yeah.
And so where did you go from there?
I got my number one. I got finally got my small boat station. So I was lieutenant at that point, and the Coast Guard has a handful of stations that are commanded by lieutenants. For the most part, our small boat stations, like the one here in Grand Haven, are commanded by senior enlisted people, master chiefs, senior chiefs, sometimes chief warrant officers, and chiefs, bosun mates usually. But there's a handful of lieutenant stations, and they're hard to get because there's only a handful of them, and you don't know which ones are coming open year to year. So, and it's a 3-year billet. So Station Cape May popped up.
And you'd been there before.
I had been there before in boot camp.
Very early.
Yes, the station is a tenant command of the training center.
Okay.
So the captain of the training center is right out the back door of the station. And not that I didn't work for her. It was a
was a
female captain
woman?
at the time, Captain Bryce O'Hara, later our vice commandant. She retired as. Yeah,
Wow.
she was fabulous. But I didn't work for her, but I was a tenant of hers. I worked for the group commander up at the air station in Atlantic City. So it's the other thing about the lieutenant stations is usually it's a location thing. It's why it needs to be, and also the size. So it was a large station.
Yeah. And this was a search and rescue station.
Search and rescue and law
Quite a
enforcement.
lot.
Yeah, we would. Yeah, 600-700 cases a year. It was kind of crazy. Yeah.
And you mentioned that you were also responsible for keeping the fleet of commercial fishermen safe.
Cape May had a large fishing fleet, which is something I learned when I got there, like one of the bigger ones on the East Coast at the time. So we worked a lot with the commercial fishing people because there were some big commercial fishing companies, and we worked a lot with them in training and keeping those guys safe because the Coast Guard regulates them. And but they're just their safety equipment, and this is again training somebody. This is why this is important. You know, we'd have them pull up to the boat dock and say, "Where's your survival suits?" Well, they'd be in their plastic wrap,
Goodness.
Shoved in a cabinet somewhere because they cost so. The thing was, they cost so much, and we don't want them to get cut or messed up. And I'm like, okay, well. Your boat's sinking. How are you going to get that thing on in time to get it on and get over the side? So we did practice with that, and it was fun. It was fun to watch them go, oh, yeah, that's a big deal.
So when you were at Cape May, I mean, you're on search and rescue, 600-700 a year.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a matter of life and death.
Right. Well, sometimes. Absolutely. Sometimes. And sometimes it was, I'm stuck.
Yeah.
And I need to be pulled off. And then, there were towing companies that would help with that. But, as far as calls, when you talk about cases, getting the boat underway, not necessarily 600 or 700, but the calls, the responses radio-wise, the law enforcement calls, those types of things. Yeah.
600-700 incidents.
Incidents,
yeah. Things where
Lots
you're
of- it
called
was
into
busy.
action of
It was
some
busy.
way, shape, or form.
It was a busy place.
So at this point, you had a couple kids.
I had 3 by that time because I had 2 while I was at officer candidate school. Because why not? Because why not?
Right? Because why not? I mean, I imagine my life as a mom and the things that I was, faced with. I feel like it doesn't even begin to compare with what you were.
I was waddling around the passageways with the officer candidates. I was pregnant in a pregnancy, maternity uniform, and which they're not attractive to begin with. So
nothing maternity was attractive. It's way cuter now. But I can't imagine being in uniform and.
Yeah, well, that's the comment I get when you asked about the comments from the officer candidates when I see them later. That's the biggest one I got was.
They remembered.
Well, yeah, you're not pregnant. I'm like, no, I'm not. Yes, because that's how they saw me pretty much the whole time I was there. Yeah. So it's funny.
So, you mentioned that there was a woman that was responsible for the station or a nearby station when you were at Cape May, and that she actually was a higher ranking officer than you were at that time.
The captain of the base.
The captain of the base.
The captain.
So she, would have entered the Coast Guard prior to you being there.
Right.
Quite a lot.
She went
prior
to officer candidate school. She had graduated from college and went to officer. She was an officer candidate school graduate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and
she came in right I want to say right when women were coming in. Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the 70s, probably.
70s, yep, 77 or something like that. Yeah.
I mean, did you find yourself? when you speak of it, it's so interesting because, and I don't, this doesn't necessarily need to be a primary theme of our interview, but it's important because it, you were paving the way for other people, and I think you were just doing your job.
Right.
And the fact that you were a woman almost,
and the station was the point in my career, and it's interesting that it was that far along where I had women senior to me that I saw all the time. So this is the captain of the training center.
Yes.
That went on to become, like I said, a vice admiral and retired as the vice commandant of the Coast Guard. My direct supervisor, my operations officer, was a female lieutenant commander up at the air station who also retired as an admiral. So I worked for these, I worked for some great women who I watched, go all the way up. So that was awesome.
Did you find that it was, for the first time in your career, you now have women above you?
Right. Yeah. And it was. I didn't think much about it at the time, but that's how long it took. It was when I was at the station. So
did you find it different? You're now in the shoes of the people who were under you, taking orders from another woman in command.
It's funny. I never thought about it too much. I think it was either you're good at this job, or you're a good leader, or you're not.
Yes, and we all want to be measured by that, not by our gender.
So I did not even. I was thrilled that to see them in those positions.
Yes,
but I never.
No, that's great.
Didn't give me too much pause with that. Yeah,
that's great. And I would hope that those that you were, in command of, that they felt the same way about you. That it was just, they could judge you on whether or not you were good or not great at the role or the function.
And we had women
but that
in the crew.
It wasn't about that.
We had women in the crew at the station. I had a handful. It wasn't a whole lot. And then but it was 65 active duty people plus another 20, 30 reserve people too. So it was a large, busy, a lot of boats and but there were women in the crew too, and they were fabulous. I had a really good crew in Cape May. We just had a lot of fun.
It's really fun.
It was a lot of work,
to
but we had a lot
hear
of fun.
How much respect you have for your fellow officers. Just
I was just, like I said, I was fortunate for the most part to just run into super good people, whether they were, whether I was in command of them or whether they were my boss or in command.
Yeah.
I just had, on both ends, I had really good people.
That's great. That's great. Yeah. So after this, you have to go back on the operations side?
That was the operations side.
That was the operations side.
I have to go back to a staff job.
You have to go back to, I'm sorry, yes. Yeah. I'm sorry, you have to go back to a staff job.
I left in 2001, July, and I was getting promoted I had been promoted to lieutenant commander at this point. And the detailer called and said, you need to come to headquarters. And I went, I was getting pretty cocky at this point. I said, not in my plan. I plan to retire without going to headquarters. He goes, sorry. Sorry, it is good to want things. These are orders. He goes, you're coming to headquarters because you're going to replace me. And this was at the personnel command. So I actually went to Coast Guard headquarters to be a detailer.
Okay.
Which is an assignment officer. So then I'm assigning officers to jobs. So
this is Washington, D.C.
Washington, D.C.
in 2001.
Yeah, I got there by the time I got moved, it was late August. August 20-something, 18th or something in there. Yeah.
Yeah, which puts it about 20 days from 9/11.
About 3 weeks before.
Yeah. So do you remember that day?
I do, vividly, like everybody.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What happened that day?
We were, Coast Guard headquarters was our office, all glass, so we faced out and towards the city. When it started, so it's a whole bunch of lieutenant commanders sitting in cubes, and we each have a group of people that we assign. I was ops ashore. I had those, and somebody's got the ships, and somebody's got the aircraft people, and one of the captains came out and went, "You guys might want to come in here and look at this." He had a TV in his room, in his office, and we walked in and we were watching and we went, huh? And at that time, it's a small plane or whatever.
Yeah.
So
small plane hit one of the twin towers.
But we had work to do, so we got back to our desks, and then of course the second one comes, and you're thinking, okay, this isn't, you're just starting to get a little anxious, and what the heck is going on?
Yeah.
And then the news started coming out with, this is not what we think it is. And shortly after that, our building, we just heard a huge boom, and our whole building just shook. and black smoke pouring out the windows that we could see. And one of my coworkers who'd lived there longer than I had said, "That's the Pentagon."
And you can see it.
You could
from
see
out
the
the
smoke.
windows
You could see
of
the
your
smoke.
building.
Couldn't see the building, but you could
Okay.
see the smoke. And sure enough, then of course the TV's like, the Pentagon just got hit. So.
I mean, was there
awful
fear
day.
at that point that you expected something to happen to more buildings?
We all in that office kept it really cool. I had no, at the time, Coast Guard headquarters was in not a great part of town, and I had no concern that anybody was going to target Coast Guard headquarters. So I don't think we were worried about that. I think we were more concerned about, okay, check, where are all our family members? Who do we know that might be in these buildings? Who do we, what are the kids doing? What's the school doing with the kids? Those types of things.
The same concerns the rest of us in the world were having.
Everybody
but
had.
You had a interesting viewpoint.
Yes,
on,
yeah. And of course, immediately they shut down Reagan.
Yeah.
And, within a couple hours, you just saw fighter jets just flew around all day long. And it was really quiet outside. When I left, it was so quiet. You didn't hear you don't realize how much traffic you usually hear in the city.
Yes.
And I walked out the door and it was so quiet. People were they'd already gone home or or they weren't going anywhere.
And what did the following couple weeks look like? What changed?
Well, my commute took me by the Pentagon every day, so it burned for a while. And it was very quiet on the highway for the first few days. Like, I've never had a commute where I got home so fast in my life, or got to work so fast for the first, few days, for the rest of that week, basically. And yeah, it was hard to, and of course, that was a 24/7 news cycle where I just finally had to turn it off. It was just constant, but.
And what did that change? What did that change for the Coast Guard? I mean, we definitely saw changes in other branches of service, but what happened?
Well, the Coast Guard does not work for the Department of Defense, and so we were under the Department of Transportation, and 9/11 is what caused us to stand up. That caused the Homeland Security to stand up.
So they
and
moved
the Coast Guard moved
under Homeland Security.
Under Homeland Security about a year later, I think, once they stood it up. Yeah.
And you're responsible. I mean, your role is you're in staffing, right?
Yeah, so I was in operations ashore, so we stood up maritime safety and security teams, a dozen of them. So I had to find commanding officers and executive officers and
did this
operations
mean
officers
bringing people back from retirement?
We had people come back. We had people calling us, please take me back. Reservists calling to come up. So we did. We brought back retirees. We brought reservists on active duty. And of course, all across the country and all the services, people stepped up and said, I'm joining. You know, takes a little while to get through the pipeline, especially for officers. You're either going to the academy for 4 years or OCS, or it takes a little longer. But people.
So, perhaps an interesting time to ask this question, but you're in the United States Coast Guard. Mm-hmm. You're a member of our country's service. Mm-hmm. Were you always reminded of that in each of the roles that you were in, or was this a moment where it became really, really clear that your job, that you were part of this crew that was meant to keep our country safe?
Absolutely, and it obviously changed the Coast Guard too, you know. But I think the biggest thing is I was proud of how people responded. Yeah. I was proud, even in my office, that we all didn't just lose our minds that day. Everybody just kept on. We had stuff to do, and we were focused. And we got super busy after 9/11. Our accounts all grew for the most part, it amounted to a lot of work to get everything put into place that the Coast Guard wanted to get done. I think I was just proud of how the country responded, how we responded, how the Coast Guard to me has always been an organization that, it's years ago it was always, we do more with less type of thing. And because we're not DOD, and you ask us to do something and we step up and take that on, we do it, throw something else at us and but just keep on doing it. That's what they do. So, I was really proud of the service.
Yeah, that's neat. So, so you were, in Washington, D.C. You still have the dream of being a station chief.
Yeah, another one.
Yeah.
Right. I was fortunate to get that first command at the station. Now I was doing my job in headquarters, so of course I wanted to get back out operational again and shoot. Yes, if you'll give me another command, I'll take it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I got promoted coming out of there. No, I didn't. Excuse me. I was still a lieutenant commander coming out of there, and I put in for group commands. So the group is kind of the next step up past the station. The groups are in charge of the stations. So,
Okay.
I put in for the group command, and there were a few on my list, and I can't remember all of them, but Grand Haven. And I was like, Grand Haven? I don't know anything about Grand Haven.
Yeah.
One of my coworkers like, it's
Or
in,
even Michigan.
yeah,
Have you
no,
been to
one
Michigan?
of my coworkers is like, it's on the lakes. I think it's in Michigan. I'm like, so I had to look it up.
Yeah.
Because I'd never been to the lakes.
Right. And you're thinking lake.
Yeah, I had never been to
Like everyone else
right,
does.
I'd never been to Great Lakes
Yeah.
at all. I had relatives in Cleveland.
Okay.
So knew a little bit, but
Yeah.
had never even been there though. So yeah, it was a big shocker. But I got group Grand Haven, so was delighted to come here. Yeah.
So, okay. So this is where, your time in Grand Haven, which, we'll talk a little bit about, only lasted a couple years.
Yeah.
But did you feel like being here was just significantly different than the other posts that you had been in?
It was. It was, it's a step up in what you're responsible for. And with each promotion and stuff, that's kind of the way it goes, is more responsibility and more that you're involved with. So, for instance, Cape May, I worked for a group commander. Now I am the group commander, and I have 8 or 9, I think it was 9 stations up and down the coast of, I was responsible for this side of the lake. They drew a line down the middle of Lake Michigan and said the east side of the lake is yours. From Charlevoix, Station Charlevoix, down to Station Michigan City, and all the 7 in between at the time.
Yeah.
Were all under the group command. So
it's not an ocean, but
no,
a lot happens.
Yes.
Here along.
Yeah. It's that was a little shocking to watch that first winter when the waves are busting over the lighthouse.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd seen pictures, but I was like, oh, wow, yeah.
Right. And your kids are in grade school?
Yeah, 2nd, 3rd, 6th, something like that when we moved here, yeah. They loved it here. Because as soon as we got here, 2 weeks later, it was festival. And they were treated like little, prince and princesses.
Right.
Pretty much so.
Was that your first exposure to the Coast Guard Festival?
Yes.
Did you even know that it was a thing? No.
But that was the other thing. They're like, oh, you go to Grand Haven, you've got that festival. I was like, what are you talking about? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that festival.
And as a group commander, what is your role in the festival?
The group commander or the senior person here, now the sector field office commander, is our liaison to the festival, so that to the Coast Guard, so that we can ask them and they can talk Coast Guard to us and tell us what's going on, which is helpful. So that was my job. So I was at board meetings, and worked with the board. Yeah.
Did you ever imagine yourself,
Oh, now?
Yeah.
No, never crossed my mind. It's funny because my predecessor, Mike Smith, was hired while I was here as the group commander.
Okay.
So my last festival, I did 3 here, even though I left after 2 years. My last festival here was Mike's first as the executive director. So we got to work together. So that was fun. Yeah,
that is really fun. That is really fun.
Yeah.
So you've said while you were here, you imagined yourself coming back here someday.
Yes. By the time I left, I knew we'd be back. My kids cried. I think the picture on the front page of the Tribune is they're all, I'm standing there in my uniform and they're all crying.
Oh my goodness.
Because they didn't want to leave. And
Yeah.
we left a year early because.
And was that your first experience with that? Because they had moved around a bit.
Yeah, no, this was the first experience. They were
Yeah.
really good about moving, but they really got attached here.
Yeah.
And like I said, everybody just fawned over them.
Yeah.
Even in school. I mean, oh, you're Coast Guard. Oh, tell us about where you've lived and all that. And you don't find that anywhere else.
Right.
You know.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you go into the school? And
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I got called into all of them. It was fun. It was
Yeah.
fun. Yeah, it was good. And I was short toward a year. I had 3-year orders, but the reorganization of the Coast Guard from, because of 9/11 to sector commands,
Which
was
becomes
happening.
more regional?
Yes, regional. So
Okay.
they stood up a sector command in Milwaukee and closed both groups because there was a group Milwaukee and a group Grand Haven. All that combined to one command over in Milwaukee under a captain. And so it's been that way since 2006. So I left a year early and went over to the sector as part of the staff and helped stand the sector up, the new sector in Milwaukee.
So in 2010, you retired. And after one thing that we skipped is that you tried to retire when you were in Washington, D.C.
I did try to retire.
Yeah. And then changed your
And
mind
I changed
on
my
that.
mind. Yeah.
So now,
Yeah.
now you're 7 years later.
Yeah.
And you decide it's time.
Yeah.
What made you?
What made me decide?
Yeah.
I don't think we covered this.
No, we didn't.
I got sick.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. I got really sick, and it was a come on overnight type. I actually had orders back to Yorktown.
Okay.
To be the training officer of the base. So I got, and that, again, my number one choice. And I had orders to Yorktown to be the training officer. And I woke up one morning and I was just ill. And it ended up being an autoimmune thing. But, the Coast Guard, the military, you can't have stuff like that. I mean, you just can't have stuff like that. And yeah, there's really, and it's, you're sick. I mean, you just can't do, at least in my case, for a while, could not function in my job. It hit me that hard at first, and it's dealing with meds and trying to figure everything out. And so I was medically boarded, and it was, I had to retire. Yeah, unfortunately.
That was hard.
Broke my heart. It was awful. It was awful because I had it all figured out, I was going to go to Yorktown, be the training officer, make captain, and then go get a sector, and then retire. So that was the plan. I had this all figured out, but sometimes other plans happen. And it was really, it ended up being a blessing. The kids were all getting into high school at that point, and so I got to stay. They got to stay put through high school and through college. I just stayed there while they were going to college too. And
where were you living at the time?
Just west of Milwaukee in New Berlin. Yeah, because the base is right down there next to the ferry terminal. If anybody's taking the high-speed ferry, the blue building
is the Coast Guard
right next to the high-speed
station?
ferry is the sector. Yeah.
So in 2010, you retire after a life of shoving 10 pounds in a 5-pound bag.
Yeah, doing more with less.
Yes,
right.
Yes. I mean, how do you even know what to do with yourself at that point?
And it's funny because at that point I still wasn't feeling really great, and the doctors had said, you will never be able to handle a full-time job again. Okay. So, interesting.
Yeah, and someone's going to tell Tracy Riley what she can or cannot do.
Thank God I just started to feel better. Yeah. It was really kind of a miracle, but, and went into remission. So I did some part-time stuff, and I really, I think there's always that, at least for me, there's that mom guilt of, I worked the whole time. My kids have been at daycare or, had a working mom their whole lives. So it was kind of nice to be home at high school and kind of keep an eye on. It was
really good timing, actually.
Oh, it is, because it's a good time to keep an eye on them anyway.
Yeah.
And help them in these plans for what they're doing after college or whatever. So I did not work full time. I worked at the Y. I taught some classes. I did that kind of thing. And then came over here and did the same type of thing for a while. I got on the board with the festival and did the same type of thing. And Mike, I'd come back once in a while for a festival. And I would always go in and see Mike Smith, and he would go, "You're going to take my job." I'm like, "I am not going to take your job. I'm not going to take your job."
He saw you as the right person.
Not interested in taking your job.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, when he passed, I went, maybe I will put in for that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, I hate to say everything happens for a reason, but there probably wasn't anyone better suited
I
to
appreciate
understand.
that. Yeah, I think the background helps a lot. The fact that I kind of grew up in the Coast Guard,
Yes.
so I know that part of it, but also that I was stationed here and have seen this. From that point of view,
Yep.
we do ask a lot of the units here. I mean, it's a Coast Guard festival, and we celebrate the Coast Guard,
Right.
but the units here work a lot that week, that
Well,
time. It's a lot on them.
But you can come to them from, from a different point of view.
Mm-hmm.
You had 28 years doing the jobs that they are doing.
Yeah.
So when you ask them to do something, you do it with a full understanding of the weight of it.
Right.
Yeah,
and
that comes from a different place than
and we try not to get too crazy to put too, because here's the other part, they've got a job to do.
Yeah.
The small boat station they're out there doing their thing, search and rescue and law enforcement, and they've got actual stuff to do, and throw a festival on top of it. So
yeah.
And there's always senior people walking around and admirals and, say what you will, but anytime a flag officer shows up and is going to walk through your unit, that's additional stress.
Yes. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
So
let's talk about the festival for a bit, because I do think that there will be people who are listening, who are listening right now, who don't know much about the festival. And even those who maybe grew up in Grand Haven or are transplants to Grand Haven see it as a carnival.
Right.
They see it as a parade, but it's way more than that.
It is.
Yeah.
So we just celebrated. This is our 102nd year. So what we call the Grand Haven Coast Guard Festival started with the community having a picnic over at the Coast Guard station across the channel, the old one that's still there, with the crew, and deciding they were going to throw them a little picnic. And the crew went out and did drills and kind of showed off their skills and that kind of thing. And that became an every year thing. As the years went by, it's like, well, let's throw a parade too. Let's add this to it, and let's add that to it, and dinners. Let's start inviting senior Coast Guard people and getting other people over here. And then in and that went on for a while. And then we had Escanaba was home ported here. And in 1943, Escanaba was sunk during the war and lost everybody but 2 of the crewmen. So I think it was 100
and these were people who lived in Grand Haven and whose families lived in Grand Haven.
And back then, it was not unusual to be assigned to something for a lot more than what we do now, 2 to 3 years. It could be longer. There was no reason for them to.
So they were members of the Grand Haven community.
Yes, and their families were as well.
Yeah.
So it was
a
devastating.
Major tragedy.
Oh, it was devastating.
Yeah.
And the community gathered around and started a bond drive and raised enough money within a year to build a new cutter. Wow. So kind of crazy. That cutter, the next Escanaba, did not come here to Grand Haven. It went elsewhere, but the community really drew together, and that was the first year that we had the memorial. 1943, they had the memorial service for the first time. Escanaba's mast, that's the mast of the Escanaba down in Escanaba Park. I don't know if everybody knows that.
No, I don't think they do.
It's the mast. So that's like the centerpiece of every year for us, is that national memorial. And last year, the Chief Petty Officers Association designed and put in a brick memorial garden. So we have the names of everybody ever since 1789 lost in the line of duty in the Coast Guard and the predecessor services, which Revenue Cutter Service, Lighthouse Service.
Here at Escanaba Park.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Life-saving service, So if you go down and see those bricks, you'll see different titles for people, and you're like, wow, that's old, from way back.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So when you first came back or began with the Coast Guard in the role of executive director, that was the 100th year.
It was the 100th year.
Yeah.
So it was great for me because, and I will, number one, great staff. We have great volunteers. The city, the Coast Guard people, the board. I mean, these folks have done this. I mean, we do this every year. 100th was big. What was good for me was to really get into the library and dig into the history, and work with the Tri-Cities Museum, did that great exhibit about it too. So I got to learn a lot of the history of the of the festival and found that really it's the city that drove this. And it's the city councils and some of the mayors from way back and some of the people that were on the festival committee that basically told the Coast Guard that this was Coast Guard City. And that's kind of the way it was.
Yeah, and what does that mean? I mean, what does that mean in the whole scheme of things?
So Grand Haven is Coast Guard City, USA. We are the only presidentially proclamated Coast Guard city in the country. The Coast Guard does have a Coast Guard City program, and there's like 35 of them.
Okay.
But they have to reapply every few years and prove that they're doing something. And usually what that means is they throw a big party around Coast Guard Day, or they'll do some things for the Coast Guard in their local community. It is nothing like what we've got going on here. We are the Coast Guard City, USA. None of the other ones have USA after them. It's just from this community going, this is what we do and this is who we are. Yeah. And going out to flying to headquarters and telling the commandant, you have to come, you know, and they come.
And how many members of the service do you typically see at a festival?
Well, and it depends. So it depends on how many cutters we have come in.
Okay.
So you've got all those crews.
Mm-hmm.
You've got honored guests from headquarters usually. Award winners that we might have from all over the country, and it just changes year to year. It depends on what's going on, but and sometimes we get retirees that we make sure we recognize because they've been Master Chief Petty Officers of the Coast Guard, or they've been the Vice Commandant, or they've been a commandant or whatever, but they come now as a retiree and they come to visit, and we make sure we we know that, and we get them included in things too. So it varies, but I really like to focus on, they come in later in the week, and that's great because we celebrate with them, but I really like to focus on the crews and the junior people and recognizing them and kind of taking care of them.
Yeah. And do you feel like, like, does the Coast Guard Festival come up when you're kind of coming up your ranks? Do people know that it's going on?
Not where I was stationed.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't know. I don't know that I ever. I've tried to recall because people have asked me, and I've tried to recall if I ever heard about it until maybe I was at headquarters, and then you hear about Grand Haven and you learn more about it. But I don't think I did.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, so we need to figure out a way to change that.
Yeah, we're working on that actually.
Yeah, but the festival itself brings in 600,000-700,000 people
probably closer
a
to
year?
3 or 4.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
3 or 4. It's a busy week, and it's now extended. It's now a 10-day festival.
Yeah.
So with a lot of moving parts, like you said, the carnival and the parades and the all the things, like entertainment every night down at the waterfront and all the things that go on, and I think. There's that balance of it is a festival for the folks that just love to come to festivals and things like that. I always want to kind of preface that with our job is to honor and celebrate the men and women of the Coast Guard. So that's what I want people to remember. And if you see Coast Guard people in town or whatever, thank them, and say hi or ask them what they've got going on or what they do or where they're from, or because that's who we're celebrating is the Coast Guard. So,
well, that's an important point to make for sure, and one that many of us probably don't even realize is going on behind the scenes while there's wristband Wednesday or what have you happening.
Right.
Yeah. So a lot of those folks bring their families and they enjoy all those things.
Some of them do.
Us.
We do get a lot that come into town and bring families. There's a lot of retirees here too, so that's kind of neat. The crews on the ships are always funny because if they've never been in, they come in on the parade of ships and they are just basically dumbfounded with the crowds on the piers and stuff. And when you talk to those folks, they're like, "This is the best thing. It's the best thing ever." And we do things just for the Coast Guard. We try to make sure we focus on some just Coast Guard events so that they can celebrate with each other.
Yeah.
And the town comes out, to and throws lunches and parties and
that's awesome.
It's a good time.
So, this is a special year for you. You've got some people coming into town that you haven't seen in a really long time.
I do, yeah.
So that's fun.
That is
And,
fun.
it's incredible, too, that you have kept in touch with these folks because, most of you would have had to work hard at staying in touch. Today we have ways.
Right.
You
had to write letters and make phone calls on phones that were attached to the walls.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there wasn't
funny.
Facebook and email and all of those kinds of things that allow us to stay in touch with people. So it says a lot that you have stayed in contact with many of these folks over the years, and I'm really excited for you to have an opportunity to reconnect with them.
And I think, too, the benefit of the Coast Guard is it's small.
Yes.
And we run into each other over and over. Like, I last time I saw this Joe I was telling you about, the ship had pulled into Yorktown, and I walked into the I think the sandwich shop or whatever, and he's sitting there, and that was the last time. But we had no idea, so we got to chat then too.
Yeah.
But you keep running into to people because it's small.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is nice.
Well, our country is about to celebrate its 250th birthday this weekend.
Isn't that something?
It is something. I remember.
200?
Yes,
yeah,
I
too.
do.
I was going to say, we dressed up.
Yes, we did in period costume and marched in the parade. And all the things.
We did too, yeah. It was fun.
Yes. So it'll be fun to be a part of the 250th.
It will,
and to have the Coast Guard Festival right on the tails of that, it just means that much more.
Right, and we're going right in with that red, white, and blue theme, which is this year. We have a theme every year. This year it's 1790 gave us our country, our nation, and 1776 gave us our nation. 1790 gave us its guardians. So
that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. So, looking back now, how important is it for you to know that your leadership may have given someone else the permission to believe that they could lead someday, that they could do it?
Oh, it's great. And what's nice about what you said about Facebook and that kind of thing is that they get on there and they've told, they'll talk about, hey, thanks. I've had some of them reach out, and who doesn't like that? That's just awesome. Thanks for believing I could do this. Thanks for not kicking me out when you probably should have. Thanks for whatever, and for and especially at Cape May, I had just an awesome crew. But they were of the ages where I could follow them for quite a while, and a lot of them retired as senior chiefs, master chiefs, had command of their own stations or their own boats as senior enlisted people. It just made my day. It just thrilling for me to kind of track where they were at. What station are they at now? And in fact, when I got here to the group, the officer in charge of Station St. Joe was at Cape May with me.
Yeah.
And so now he was one of the officers in charge that I hear when I was at the group. So it was just it's neat.
It's really neat.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one of the things that's most impressive about you, Tracy, is that you never, ever, ever saw anything as a barrier for success. And you have nothing but just kind and respectful words to say about the folks that you worked with and the lessons that you learned. Yeah. It's really impressive. And
thank you.
Really just a message of, true leadership. And, it's fun to hear your story.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for joining us, and good luck with the Coast Guard Festival.
Thanks. Yeah, we're countdown time.
Yes, and have a great holiday weekend.
I will. Thank you.
Right,
you too.
Thanks. Thanks for listening to Inspire West Michigan. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow or subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, and leave us a review to help others find our show. Visit inspirewestmichigan.com and follow us on social media for more behind-the-scenes stories. Until next time, stay inspired, West Michigan.